Welcome back to the podcast. Let's continue learning more about what writing options, aka selling options, is and how it can help you generate income. As mentioned in the last episode, each episode that follows will continue to build upon the previous episode in order to build your foundation of knowledge into various aspects of selling options. Make sure to follow and subscribe to this podcast for future episodes. With that, I'd like to introduce you to our hosts, Adam and Isla.
All right, so we're diving into option writing today.
Yeah.
And, from the articles you sent over, it seems like you already have a good grasp of the basics.
Yeah, for sure.
So we can skip, kind of the calls and puts and all that stuff.
Right, yeah.
We can jump right into the good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's explore how option writers think and the strategies they use and, maybe some nuances that you wouldn't necessarily find in just a basic, beginner's guide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
So I think what's really cool about option writing is that it kind of flips the script.
Okay.
Like instead of buying options and hoping the market moves, in a certain direction,
Yeah.
you're actually selling options,
Okay.
collecting that premium up front,
Right.
and actually aiming to profit, even if the underlying asset doesn't move much
Okay.
or even moves against you.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're taking on the role of the casino,
Right. It's a good analogy, yeah.
You're setting the odds and you're hoping that,
The house wins in a sense.
Exactly. But just like a savvy casino, option writers need to carefully manage their risk.
Right.
And that's where the distinction between covered and uncovered option writing.
Yeah, the articles mentioned covered writing sounds a little bit safer, right? It's like you have a little bit of insurance in case things go south.
With covered writing, you already own the underlying asset. You're selling calls.
Right.
Or you're short the asset if you're selling puts.
Okay.
So this limits your potential losses,
Okay.
but it also caps your potential profit.
Yeah, so it's like a trade-off.
Exactly.
You're getting peace of mind,
Yeah.
but you're maybe giving up a little bit of that
Yeah.
upside.
The big gains, yeah.
Can you give me like a concrete example of how that works in practice?
Let's say you own 100 shares of Apple
Okay.
and you think it's a great company long term,
Sure.
but you don't expect the stock price to explode in the next month or so. Right.
You could write a covered call option,
Okay.
giving someone the right to buy your shares at a predetermined price,
Right.
the strike price,
Yeah.
by a certain date.
Okay.
So if the stock stays below that strike price,
Uh-huh.
you get to keep the premium
Yeah.
and your shares.
So you're basically getting paid to be right.
Exactly. You get paid
Mm-hmm.
for being right about your prediction.
Okay.
And even if the stock price goes up a little,
Yeah.
but stays below the strike price, you still win. Keep the premium,
Yeah.
and you might even see some gains on your shares.
But what if Apple announces some incredible new product
Right.
and the stock just, explodes up?
That's the trade-off we talked about.
Okay.
The buyer of that option might decide to exercise their right,
Yeah.
meaning you'd have to sell your shares at the strike price.
Right. Okay.
So you'd miss out on some of that huge upside,
Yeah.
but you'd still profit from the premium
Right.
and any gains up to the strike price.
Okay. I see. So you're not going to get those, massive gains if it really takes off. That's appealing. I mean, that's a good strategy.
It's a great strategy for generating income from stocks you already own.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the articles also mentioned that covered calls might not be the best if you're expecting like huge price swings.
That's right. If you think a stock is going to go parabolic,
Yeah.
a covered call would limit your profits.
Right.
There are other strategies like rolling covered calls or using different types of spread that might be more suitable in those scenarios.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to dive into those later.
Yeah, definitely.
But first, I'm kind of curious about this uncovered option writing. Uncovered or naked option writing.
Yeah. Is where things get a bit more adventurous.
Okay.
Because you're selling options without owning or being short the underlying asset,
Okay.
which means your potential losses
Yeah.
are theoretically unlimited.
Unlimited.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. That's a little intimidating. Why would someone take that kind of risk?
Well, the potential rewards,
Yeah.
it can be much higher,
Okay.
especially if you have a strong conviction about how the market will move.
Okay.
It's all about understanding those potential scenarios
Right.
and carefully managing your risk.
So you really have to know what you're doing.
Yeah, you need to have a good plan going in.
Can you give me an example of how, like, an uncovered call
Sure.
could lead to these big losses?
Let's say you decide to write an uncovered call option on Tesla,
Okay.
believing that the stock price will stay flat or even go down.
Yeah.
But then Tesla announces a major breakthrough in battery technology.
Uh-oh.
and the stock price explodes upwards.
Yeah, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the option buyer decides to exercise their right,
Right.
you'd be obligated to buy Tesla shares at that much higher market price
Yeah.
and sell them to the buyer at the lower strike price.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
That difference could result in a substantial loss.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not for the
Okay,
faint of heart.
Not for beginners.
Right. It seems like it's more about, making bold predictions than just steadily generating income.
It's true that uncovered writing can be more speculative,
Yeah.
but experienced traders often use it to express specific market views
Okay.
or to hedge other positions.
So it's not just like gambling.
It's not gambling, no.
Okay.
It's a tool that, when used strategically,
Yeah.
can be quite effective,
Okay.
but it's definitely not for beginners.
Right.
It requires a deep understanding of options, risk management,
Okay.
and the underlying asset.
All right, so we've got covered, we've got uncovered.
Right.
Both of the articles mention this term time decay. I have a feeling this works in the option writer's favor.
Absolutely.
Right.
You got it.
Okay.
Time decay is also known as theta,
Okay.
is the rate at which an option's value erodes
Okay.
as it gets closer to its expiration date.
So an option with a longer time until expiration
Yeah.
has more value.
Exactly, because there's
So-
more time for the stock price to move in the buyer's favor.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So for option writers, this means that the options they sell will naturally lose value over time,
Yeah,
even if the underlying stock price doesn't move much. Wait, so even if I'm wrong about the stock going up or down,
yeah,
I can still potentially profit time passes.
exactly. Time decay acts like a gradual tailwind.
That's cool.
Yeah, it allows them to potentially profit from the passage of time,
Okay.
even if their predictions aren't spot on.
It's like a secret weapon.
I like that analogy.
It's like having a silent partner working in the background,
Yeah.
to kind of enhance their returns.
It's definitely an important concept for option writers to grasp,
Yeah.
and it plays a crucial role
Okay.
in many different option writing strategies.
Okay. This is starting to make sense, but I'm really curious to kind of dive into these specific strategies
Yeah.
and see how writers actually use these, navigate these different market conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We'll explore some popular approaches,
Okay.
like covered calls, covered puts, short strangles,
Yeah.
and various types of spreads.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Cool.
So those option rating strategies you
Yeah.
mentioned, I'm ready to explore.
Yeah, for sure.
The articles touched on covered calls and puts.
Right.
Are those like strategies in and of themselves?
They are.
Or are they just kind of like building block?
They're definitely core strategies,
Yep.
often used as standalone plays. Let's revisit covered calls.
Yeah.
They're a popular choice for many option writers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for refresh my memory, covered calls involve
Yes,
owning the underlying stock
Yeah.
and selling call options against it.
exactly.
Right.
It's a strategy often favored by investors who are, bullish on a stock long term,
Right.
but believe it might trade sideways or have limited upside in the short term. So they're essentially using those premiums
Yeah.
to potentially enhance the returns they'd get from just holding the stock.
So if the stock price stays below the strike price, you keep the premium and your shares.
Right.
And even if it rises a bit but remains below the strike,
Yeah.
you still benefit from the premium and any share price appreciation.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what if you're bearish on a stock though?
Right.
Is that where covered puts come in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Covered puts are like the flip side of covered calls.
Yeah.
Sell put options.
While simultaneously being short the underlying stock,
Yeah.
aiming to profit from a potential price decline.
Shorting a stock always makes me a little nervous.
Yeah.
Why would someone even do that in the first place?
So short selling is a way to potentially profit if a stock's price goes down.
Right.
But as you pointed out,
Yeah.
it carries inherent risks.
Big risks.
Losses are theoretically unlimited
You're right.
if the stock price rises instead.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do covered puts help mitigate that risk?
So by selling a covered put,
Okay.
you're essentially getting paid through that upfront premium
Right.
to potentially buy the stock back at a lower price
Okay.
if it drops.
Okay.
It's like setting a limit order,
Uh-huh.
but getting compensated
Okay.
for the possibility of that order being filled.
So you're offsetting some of that risk
Okay.
by collecting the premium.
You're getting a little buffer.
It's like a little buffer. Okay.
Exactly.
But covered writing still has risk, right?
It does, yes.
Yeah. Whether it's calls or puts.
With calls or puts.
You could still...
You could still lose money if the stock moves significantly against your prediction.
Okay.
But the potential losses are limited
Right.
because you either own the underlying asset or are short the asset.
Okay, so there's a level of risk management there.
Exactly.
But I know the articles also mention these other strategies,
Right.
like strangles and spreads,
Yes.
and those sound a bit more complex.
Yeah, those are excellent examples of strategies
Yeah.
that take option writing a step further.
Okay,
They combine multiple options contracts
okay,
to create specific risk-reward profiles,
okay.
often allowing for more fine-tuned control over potential outcomes.
Let's start with strangles. What are those?
Okay, so strangles
Yeah.
are a neutral strategy,
Okay.
meaning you're not necessarily predicting whether the stock will go up or down,
Okay.
just that it won't move too far in either direction.
So you're not betting on which way it's going.
Exactly.
You're just betting on it kind of staying put.
Yeah, you're betting on the stock staying within a certain range.
Interesting.
So with a short strangle,
Okay.
you sell both a call option and a put option
Okay.
on the same stock, but with different strike prices.
Okay.
The call strike would be above the current stock price,
Yeah.
and the put strike would be below it.
So you're creating like a band
Exactly.
and hoping it stays within that band.
You got it.
Okay.
If the stock price stays within that range,
Yeah.
both options expire worthless,
Yeah.
and you get to keep both premiums.
Okay.
It's like setting up a fence around the stock
I like that analogy.
and hoping it stays within those boundaries.
But what if it breaks through the fence?
Right, so that's the risk with a short strangle.
Yeah.
If the stock price moves significantly above the call strike or below the put strike,
Right.
one of the options will become valuable,
Yeah.
and you could face a loss.
Okay.
The further the stock moves outside the band, the greater the potential loss.
So higher potential profit,
Exactly.
but also higher risk.
Short strangles are often used
Yeah.
when traders anticipate a period of consolidation or reduced volatility in a stock.
Okay. So that's when you might use that.
Right.
Now, what about spreads?
Okay.
The articles mention bear call spreads.
Yes.
And bull put spreads.
Yeah, spreads like strangles
Yeah.
involve using multiple options contracts,
Okay.
but instead of selling both a call and a put,
Yeah.
spreads use two options of the same type,
Okay.
either calls or puts,
Got it.
but with different strike prices
Right.
and possibly different expiration dates. Yeah, you're combining different options
Yeah.
to get a specific outcome.
Okay.
For instance, a bear call spread is a bearish strategy
Okay.
where you expect the stock price to go down.
Okay.
You'd sell a call option.
Yeah.
And simultaneously buy another call option
Okay.
on the same stock, but with a higher strike price.
So you're selling a call and buying a call.
Yes.
Why would you do that?
The idea is to limit your potential losses
Okay.
by buying that higher strike call.
Okay.
You're essentially creating a ceiling on how much you could lose
Right.
if the stock price goes up unexpectedly.
So you're benefiting from a bearish move,
Right.
but you're also protecting yourself
Exactly.
if things go the other way.
If things go wrong, you have some protection.
Okay.
If the stock price stays below the strike price of the call you sold,
Yeah.
both options expire worthless,
Okay.
and you keep the net premium you received.
That's net premium.
So that's the premium from the call you sold,
Okay.
minus the cost of the call you bought.
Okay, so it's like the difference between the two.
Exactly.
Okay.
But if the stock price goes up,
Yeah.
your losses are capped at the difference between the strike prices
Okay.
minus the net premium you received.
Okay, so even if it shoots way up,
Yeah, you know your max loss.
you know your max loss.
So bear call spreads are a way to make a bearish bet
Okay,
while limiting your risk.
got it.
Yeah,
Now, bull put spreads,
Yes.
is that the opposite?
it is. You nailed it.
Okay.
A bull put spread is a bullish strategy
Okay.
where you expect the stock price to go up or at least stay above a certain level.
Okay.
You'd sell a put option
Right.
and simultaneously buy another put option
Okay.
on the same stock, but with a lower strike price.
So again, selling one, buying one
Right.
to manage the risk.
Exactly. It's amazing how you can create these different payoff structures
Yeah, it's really cool.
by combining options.
Yeah.
In this case, you're betting that the stock price will stay above the strike price
Mm-hmm.
of the put you sold.
Of the one you sold. Okay.
If it does,
Yeah.
you keep that net premium.
Okay.
And if the stock price falls below the strike of
Yeah.
the put you bought,
Yeah.
your losses are limited to the difference between those strike prices,
Okay.
minus that net premium you received.
Got it. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
creating a range
You're creating a range.
where you profit if it stays in there.
Exactly.
Your losses are limited
Yeah.
if it breaks out of that range.
Spreads can be incredibly versatile tools
Yeah.
for option writers,
Okay.
allowing them to tailor their strategies to specific market outlooks
Right.
and risk tolerances.
But I'm curious about like the practical side.
Right.
How do option writers choose which strategy to use?
That's where the art and science of option writing come together.
Okay.
They consider their market outlook,
Yeah.
their risk tolerance,
Right.
the volatility of the underlying asset,
Okay.
and even factors like time decay.
Time decay, we talked about that.
Yeah.
It seems like that's a really important concept
It's crucial,
for option writers to understand.
regardless of the strategy.
So just to kind of recap, time decay is that rate at which an option loses value
Exactly.
as it gets closer to expiration.
As it gets closer to its expiration date.
Right. So a longer time until expiration means more value
More value.
because there's more time
Yeah.
for that stock to move
More time for the buyer to potentially profit.
in the buyer's favor. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as that time dwindles, the option is worth less and less.
Exactly.
So for option writers,
Yeah.
this means that they can actually benefit from just time passing,
Exactly.
even if the underlying stock
Even if the stock doesn't move,
doesn't move that much.
they can potentially buy back
Yeah.
the options they sold
Okay.
at a lower price,
Right.
pocketing the difference as profit.
So time decay is like, it's like a silent partner.
Yeah, it's working in their favor. Yeah, it's a reminder that option writing isn't just about
Right.
making these bold predictions.
Yeah.
It's about managing risk and potentially profiting from the passage of time.
It's like a whole other element to consider.
It's a fundamental concept
Yeah.
that underpins many option writing strategies.
It's incredible how many factors there are with
Well-
option writing. There's so much more to it.
It's a lot more nuance.
Yeah.
And we've only just scratched the surface today.
Really?
There's a whole world of advanced strategies, adjustments,
Wow.
and nuances that experienced option writers use to navigate the markets.
Okay. We've covered so much about option writing,
We have.
but I still feel like there's even more to learn.
Yeah, there really is. There's a whole depth to option writing
Yeah.
that goes way beyond what we've talked about.
Right.
And that's, I think, part of what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a constant learning process.
So someone who's listening to this
Right.
and wants to learn more, where would you recommend they go?
Well, the great thing is there are so many resources out there.
Yeah.
You know, there's books and articles, online courses,
Yeah.
even communities
Right.
of option writers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, where you can share knowledge and experiences.
It's like
So-
this whole world of learning
It is. It really is.
available, at your fingertips.
Absolutely. And remember, knowledge is power,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to investing.
For sure.
The more you understand about options,
Yeah.
the better equipped you'll be
Right.
to navigate the complexities and make smart decisions.
So option writing is not like a magic formula.
No, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme.
Right. It requires you to really understand
But you got to put in the work.
what's going on.
You need to understand risk management
Yeah.
and be willing to adapt as you learn.
So to kind of wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave the listener with a question.
Okay.
We've talked about all these strategies.
Yeah.
Covered, uncovered, spreads, time decay.
But what type of option writing strategy are you most intrigued by?
Yeah, and I would even add to that, would you stick with stocks you own
Yeah.
or venture into other markets like ETFs or indices?
Yeah, those are great questions to think about.
Yeah,
And as you continue this journey of learning about options,
yeah,
I think it's important to remember that the journey itself is really valuable.
I agree.
It's not just about getting to the destination.
You learn so much along the way.
Yeah, embrace that learning process.
Absolutely.
Ask questions, seek out that knowledge,
Yeah.
and never stop challenging yourself.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, well,
On that note, I think it's time for us to sign off. Happy investing, everyone.
happy investing. And make sure you subscribe to this podcast and follow us on X to be notified of our next podcast episode. Just click on that follow or subscribe button.
No.
Our X handle is the @ symbol, followed by selling the number 4 premium, all one word.